good evening, everybody, or good morning, or good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you are in. Welcome to Overcoming Illness here on Elevation TV Network. I'm your host, Paula Denoncourt. My business is called Enrich Your Health. I've been doing my business since about 2010. I help people with things like food allergies, food sensitivities. I myself have suffered from multiple food allergies. Something else that has fallen into my lap is I've helped a lot in the Lyme disease community. I'm a Lyme disease advocate. I also help with autoimmune issues. I've done some digital ebooks and recipe books that are really helpful for people that need to eat dairy-free, gluten-free, nut-free, low sugar, things like that. So, and I've done one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and speaking engagements. And so now I have my own TV show. So I'm very thankful to Elevation TV Network for this platform. And today I have a very, very special guest, Avis Cherie, who is going to share her experiences with migraines, chronic pain, and things like that, and what she's been going through with her illness and how she's been overcoming it and what she's doing about it, and even some things we've just realized just recently by talking to me, oddly enough. So so welcome, Avis. So Avis, let's start by you telling a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and then just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just go into some questions for you.
Okay, thank you, Paula, for this opportunity. I appreciate it. My name is Avis Cherie. I am from St. Louis, Missouri, and relocated to Delaware over 29 years ago. My background is in health and social services, education, leadership, and I'm a international best-selling author. I have 5 publications out now. I'm also a mental health clinician. I'm into advocacy, and I have a one-touch outreach ministries here in Delaware as well. I now reside in Newark, Delaware.
Okay, so let me explain a little bit more about Avis. She is a servant leader, mental health clinician. She happens to be a 3-time international best-selling author, inspirational speaker, multi-talent content creator. She's the brand of the self-proclaimed Miss Motivational Mogul Mindset. Known for infamous and purposeful motivational vlogs, she's also unequivocally one of the leaders of inspirational quote makers. One of the most profound blessings to date is a founder of her 501c3 nonprofit organization, One Touch Ministries, Inc. Outreach. So once again, welcome, Avis. And I do want to welcome, I see my friend Joy is on tonight. Thank you, Joy, for being here. Her sister is actually going through some similar issues and illness, which we don't know what she has either, Avis. So glad that Joy is here right now.
Hi.
Yeah, Joy too. So if anybody wants to watch that show, let me tell you, that is one powerful woman. You want to watch that show.
Yeah.
Joy, uniqueness, empowerment. Okay. So Avis, what chronic pain have you suffered from, and when did it start?
The earliest chronic pain I can remember is migraines. I have 4 children, and I started having children in my early adulthood. And I didn't notice it, I guess, because I was always on the move and on the run and working so hard and going to school and taking care of the kids. And I just would get them frequently, and it would just normal, I guess, just go in the dark, normal pain, and it'll subside, but it would come frequently. And so they have not stopped to this day. Actually, I have one today at this moment. So it's kind of like with age, I started to, I used to just be on the run so much I wouldn't pay attention to it. I didn't let myself be sensitized enough to go to it. But now I'm desensitized with age, and I've slowed down, and now it's just like, wow, it really hurts this bad. You know what I mean? So I've had to make it live with me versus me live with it.
Yep. How many years has it been?
It has been at least 30.
Wow.
30 strong. And back then we weren't diagnosed as frequently with migraines. They just had headaches and take some Tylenol or this or that. But as an adult with my own specialist, I've had a neurologist since I was 19.
Wow. It's a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, everybody, I always forget to say this, but I am not a nutritionist, dietitian, doctor. This is not meant to be medical advice or cure or heal anything. This is for experiences. And anything on the show is just experiences only. This just gives you other options and ideas of what you're dealing with, and to give you a little bit more knowledge and education about different illnesses and what you can do for yourself. So once again, not meant to heal, treat, or cure anything. So I just wanted to add that. So how did you cope with some of your symptoms, Avis?
Initially, I immediately changed my diet. I'm not one to like to take a lot of medicine, but when it comes on you all at once, you go through the different cocktails, as they call it, the different medication regimens,
Mm-hmm.
trying to be obedient, following up and just going along with the flow to try to weed things out. That was my first thing. I always get MRIs, I get the x-rays, the exams, brain scans, and it was to my late 20s when they found out I had brain fluid on the right side of my brain. So from there it increased, it got a little bit more serious. They started talking about surgeries, and then I backed off. I still see my neurologist, but I backed off from that communication, changed my diet. It probably was lack of water intake back then because I
Yeah.
was younger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I was on charge and go all the time. And I changed. I always loved salads. I always loved peanuts and stuff. So it wasn't a big thing for me to come off of sweets back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing that and just being mindful of how frequently I started getting it. And then
Yeah.
what I needed to do to take refuge. Like my schedule had to be so intact because I could just literally be out from a migraine. So my children were young. So I'd be like, my schedule for breakfast, lunch, dinner, school, homework, everything was in sync. And anytime we had a football practice, or I was in grad school, anything that I could take a downtime, I would take that time to sit back and relax, whether I was in a car, I just had to take advantage of every moment I had. That was then.
Now, did you find that hormones might have played a role?
Um, earlier in life, I didn't even think that. They did tell me, however, that every child I had, my body had lost so many vitamins and nutrients. They kind of went over a skeleton of ideas of what it could be based off my lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, okay, this is new. I'm going along with it, I'm like, hey, that makes sense. And I didn't know after each child, you need to, have time in between for your body to get back into natural hormone balance and things like that. I'd never been sat down and taught that until too late. To be honest, like way too late.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so when I turned 40, I got married when I turned 40 for the first time. And then my body was already slowing down. My metabolism, I noticed, and everything. And then my body was affected by different things that I once wasn't affected by. So
Mm-hmm.
if I did ignore the stress levels before in my 20s and my young teens when I was a mother, I noticed it now. It
Yeah.
was like all the things that I ignored because of work and that, I couldn't ignore it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if hormones, I'm sure the medication they gave me, I would read every background about every kind of medication I was taking. And it was a multi-usage dose of anything. Like some people would take antidepressants. They would prescribe you those for migraines. So
Really?
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And the only reason I knew that is because I was in studying for my master's and PhD for mental health. So a lot of the prescriptions you see for antidepressant or mental health illness, it would be dual usage for migraines. You can Google. I hate Google, but you can Google anything now. A lot of times you can see some of those pills or that medication, and it'll say cross usage or dual usage for headaches, fatigue. It's just so much. Yeah, they use.
Do that. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Wow. So now that leads us to our next question. What doctors did you see? What types of testing did they do
Mm.
to help diagnose you and treat you?
Well, the neurologist was number one. It wasn't the primary because what was so funny is it seemed like the neurologist was my primary. They were the ones who found out I was vitamin D deficient.
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting because I didn't know that was correlated to migraines. So when I found out, I was kind of happy I was with the people I was with. I went for my other doctors for other things, but it seemed like I seen my neurologist the most. And because of the frequency and the severity of my migraines, I would get the MRIs, the CAT scans. They would do everything neurological to the brain. That any test that you can think of, I've had it. And when I had like really, really bad episodes, I would skip the line in the emergency in the emergency room
Oh wow.
because it was so bad. And I thought like, I mean, I thought it was special in a sense because of, so a lot of people, I can look like this. I don't look like I have a migraine right now because I'm not focused on it.
Wow.
So I usually serve people more. I usually help and focus on other things more because it's not like I can just go to sleep and go away. It doesn't. So
Wow.
when I would go into the hospital and I skip the line, it was kind of like, okay, they know, they see it, they know what to look for. And it felt good because I used to get shots of it's a medication they give you like when people are in high pain, even if they have a car accident or if someone's severely shot. I forget the name of it, but I would get that shot and go home, and I wouldn't have to see any more doctors for the rest of the week. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like I forget the name of the shot, but it was when I would tell people I get it, they'd be like, "Why would they give you that for migraines? That is a strong dose of pain medicine," and
What do
that's what it
you,
took.
codeine?
It's a ding, but it's not codeine. I used to know the name offhand because I would always tell people, and it was in my
Mm-hmm.
records, but I haven't gotten that in so long. But I didn't realize it until someone's child was wounded from I hate to say it, but it was a violent gunshot, and they got the same shot. And I
Mm,
was like, wait a minute, like this is how bad my migraines are.
wow.
So yeah, I think you have to pay attention to the medication too and see what works and what doesn't, what you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna let pacify it, what you're not. And for me, I didn't like the cocktails. I like being outgoing. I like being able to get up and walk and be cognizant. And the medications give you such a hangover. I just refused.
Mm. Yeah.
It's kind of where it's at.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about your family and the support from your family, resistance, anything you can tell us about dealing with your family or how, or even trying to raise a family with
Yeah.
being ill and not feeling well. Tell us a
My
little.
oldest is my oldest son, and then I'm my daughter's second oldest. And so when they told me with women having children and different things are being transmitted, all of your stuff is going to your child or whatever, you have to replenish. I got scared for my daughter. She does not have children yet, but it concerned me when I had to find out in my late 20s something I probably should have known a lot earlier.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest son started getting headaches in
Oh,
his
wow.
teens. I started like 13, 14. He started at like 12. And so I had enough knowledge and know-withal to kind of watch and make sure that his diet was well, make sure he logged his frequency. So we had a support and because of relation and knowing that when his room was dark, I understood no noise. You know what I mean? So he knew how to support early on. My daughter now, has a menstrual cycle that takes her out
Mm,
and she got chronic severe headaches with it. So I was telling her, don't wait long to eat because this is in the family. It may be hereditary, we don't know. So she can relate. I'm like, make sure you eat, even if you're not hungry in the morning, make sure you eat something. I don't want something neurologically to trigger you
mm,
to start to get migraines. She's 32 by the grace of God. She only gets them during those times.
mm-hmm.
My other children, one of my other sons still gets them, but it's not frequent. So
Mm,
they're supporting. It's just been us. They support because they know. They support because they're used to an active mom, a mom that's engaged, even when I was younger. So when I'm disengaged, they know, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, we have to be sensitive to one another's needs. That was important as a single mom,
mm-hmm.
anyway, but not scaring them and alarming them because sometimes it would take me out and they would think like, what's going to happen? You want to safeguard their innocence. I don't
Yeah.
want them to carry mom's burden of pain,
Right. Right.
you
Wow.
know. And then I would go into transition into a like chronic pain sufferers. They suffer in silence
Mm,
because you don't want to burden other people. You want to even if I look this strong right now in this interview, that gives the wrong perception to the public because, oh, you look okay. Oh, that can't be what's wrong. So, it's all of that. So we had to go through all of the years of that. And I think communication and just being transparent and real with your family. And then as I got older and my metabolism slowed down and I slowed down, they started coming to doctor's appointments with me.
Wow.
And that freaked them out.
Oh my goodness. Wow. How did I freak them out?
Because I get the currently for the last, I want to say 5-6 years maybe, they've been testing me with the Botox injections for migraines. And I used to get like 66 injections.
Wow.
So I did not know you don't get numbed. Everybody thinks, well, is it the real needle? Is it this? There's no numbing. And it is the real needles. So I decided to invite each one of my children one by one. Needless to say, they only had one visit.
Oh no.
Because my daughter was like videoing it for the other ones. And all I heard, and they just wheel you in the chair. You're sitting in a regular chair like you and I are. And you just lay your head back and they wipe your face with alcohol. And I used to get, I just show you the spots here. It's at the crease of my hairline, above my eyelid, below, outside the perimeters, above my ears, all down my neck and my shoulder blades. That's the amount of dosage I get to this day. And so what happens is your face starts to bubble up from the injections. And my daughter was filming it. And all I heard was, she made the throw up sound. And that's how we bonded. And that's how she had a mutual respect for what we were going through. Like, and it's we, because it's just not mom taking kids to doctors. It's like mom might have a moment too. And that's how we got to establish the relationship of respect of what someone else may be going through, although they may not look like it. And so my husband came into it. We worked together. So we were both in leadership at a school, and everybody walked past my office, and it's a little window. So if it's dimly lit with the candles, everybody walked on. They walked on by because they were like,
no. Yeah.
Avis has a migraine. So I guess because I was in a servant field all this time for 29 years, and because of that, my reward back was to have peace at work. And a lot of people don't get that. I never called off for it because I love to serve and I can just forget about it. But thankfully, I was in a position to be able to do that. A lot of people can't.
Mm-hmm. No, I give you a lot of credit. I
Thank
want
you.
the covers over my head alone.
Yeah, my husband went twice.
I don't know.
I think it went 2 times or 3 times for the injections. But one of my sons, my third son, he's always in traffic day of appointment. He's like, I'm in traffic, Mom. I can't go. I can't go to your appointment with you.
Oh my goodness. I just have to plug this in real quick. Okay. I think we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. So my middle son can't handle it. He can't handle it.
Wow.
Yeah, he's always in traffic, and he knows what it looks like. He's seen a video. So I did a vlog for it about chronic pain sufferers, and I became an ambassador for chronic pain and fibromyalgia sufferers. So stop suffering in silence. And I put myself in the forefront to show them exactly what people like you and I look like, and something else can be going on. And I do that often because I don't want to come from a place of non-experience and just talking. I'll really show them a glimpse of, yeah, don't prejudge what it looks like, because people going through stuff, and be considerate.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you've kind of touched upon this a little bit already, but take us through a debilitating chronic pain day. You've kind of touched upon it already, but take us through a day of like one of your worst days, and maybe, I don't know if you were working or just dealing with your family, whatever it might be, but what was one of your worst days? And was it just migraines, or would you with other pains in your body?
So some of my worst days have been the last 12 years, I would say. My worst days are, I'll just do today. Getting up with positive mindset, getting up, making coffee, maybe cooking breakfast, and having a plan. I do multiple projects per day, so I'm always working. I've been home working for 11 years now. Um, and then getting up with an idea like this, feeling refreshed, looking forward to an interview, and I've been bedridden all day
Mm-hmm.
out of nowhere. The onset for me and my migraines is rapid. It's not a progressional. I'm past that stage, and I realize it.
Mm-hmm.
So if my eyes are too heavy, if my temples are burning, if my neck is burning, if my shoulder blades are burning, you can feel at the onset. And they say, well, hurry up and take one pill at the onset and then shoot yourself in the stomach. I got new meds. I'm not taking them, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because I couldn't walk when I took one of them. So I just pay attention to what it does to me immediately. And they're like, well, let it get used to your system. I'm just like, if it debilitates me even more, immobilizes me even more, I just don't think that's going to agree with me. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be a physician and be, stubborn, but I have to be able to be coherent. And
Right.
so that's what the days are. I try to get up and do things. I can't walk sometimes. Definitely cognitively, I can't speak. Sometimes the migraines here lately have been getting so bad they have borderline TIA, and or they have said I've had two already. Drooping of the face on the left side, numbing of the face. The left eye will get smaller, run, and tears will run out. I won't feel it. So I've had that happen so severely twice that now I know when it starts, and then I immediately call the ER and stuff like that. My neurologist will tell me put me in stat. So that has happened in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So because it has happened in the last 2 years, I'm figuring something else maybe getting wrong. So they'll do scan my brain and see if the fluid is increasing and stuff like that, or ask me what I was doing. Most times I'm doing this. I could be doing something joyous, happy, writing, blogging, nothing stressful, like literally. And that is a day. So today was challenging. I had to text my husband, say, hey, that big Sunday dinner that I love to do, I cook, I can't do it today. I'm sorry. Had to give him a heads up before he got home. Told my son, I have to do this plan even in the pain. And everybody's like, okay, immediately there's an alternative thing. Let's switch. So
Mm-hmm.
you save your energy. You sit down. I was just reading the Bible. I was just reading motivation. I was reading things to stimulate me in a higher vibration. And I just wanted to get through to the next thing I had to do, the most important thing for the rest of the day.
Wow. God bless you. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you. It doesn't change deadlines. It doesn't change my commitments. Thank God I'm home and I have multiple projects that I'm in control of. And I just know that was the grace of God,
Yeah.
because I can control them, but I definitely show up like this. And when I say migraine, I'm a high level migraine. So right now, the ease for me is speaking and serving
Mm-hmm.
at this moment. So I think today was a great day to exemplify that, and something, and tell somebody that, they can push through.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely sounds to me like, we were talking about this before you came on the show.
Yeah.
It's a combination of things for you. I think, like you had said, maybe vitamin D deficiency. So, one thing people don't realize, things get passed on to us from way back, generations way back. So, an example of that is I remember talking to a guy that I worked with, not as a client, but a coworker. And he was telling me his entire family had vision problems, like from grandpa on up to great grandpa. They were all from Ireland. And I said, I wonder why they all have vision problems. Well, if you think about it, maybe they just weren't getting enough vitamin A. Maybe no sweet potatoes, maybe no carrots. Maybe in the old days, maybe they only had it was Ireland, but maybe they had like ham and I don't know what they had, but maybe
Yeah.
they didn't have enough vitamin A in their diet and it kept going down the line, down the line, down the line. So you have to ask yourself, what is it in your family that was missing? It starts with a mother at some point. So like you
Amen.
passed it on to your son, and maybe even your daughter. So at some point, you'd have to look at your whatever you've been eating in your family all the way down the line. What have you, like, what are your staples? What have you been growing up with? You know, another example was I had a neighbor and she's like, oh, I have osteoporosis. My mother had it. It's hereditary. Boom. Like, well, it doesn't have to be.
Right. That's
You know,
right.
like, oh, like Italians eat a lot of like pasta and lasagna and pizza and things, so they may be missing nutrients. The older Italians probably not. They had gardens and things like that, but not.
Mm.
So what you have to look at, like a lot of our illnesses are really a vitamin and mineral deficiency.
Mm.
So some of us don't even know like what what a vitamin and mineral deficiency can contribute to, I should say. Like you just said it earlier, I didn't even know vitamin D deficiency contributes to migraines. I didn't know that, but I'm not
Mm.
I hear it. I
Mm.
just kind of wanted to point that out. So sometimes you have to look down the line. What were you brought up with? And
Mm.
how can you can change it. You can change.
Yeah.
Hey, you can change it. Am I going to say it's easy? No, because you're brought up with certain foods and you want to keep eating way. But
Yeah.
I had to change my ways tremendously, or I would have.
Yep.
So
I
I,
thought it was interesting with the vitamin D because my neurologist caught it because she was so
yeah.
concerned. And that's when I was saying that she became my primary, sort of, because she did things my primary didn't screen for. So
Mhm.
if you can, set a disclaimer with that as well with people, don't just go on the first. I know people say don't take the first diagnosis, go to another doctor, get a second opinion, but also it may not come from the doctor you think. So you have to keep forging ahead and
Right.
pressing to get an answer that makes sense or somebody that's knowledgeable. Because had she not done it, with all the tests I was getting with my primary, not one time in my life did I ever, even having children early, did I ever hear that I was vitamin D deficient
Yeah.
and or anemic.
Mm.
And with that, when you do become deficient in a vitamin, like with me with the vitamins, they had revved me up. They gave me a prescription for vitamin D because I needed so much. And I don't know that I'm not going to quote the exact numbers as an adult, but I was in my teens and it's supposed to be high double digits.
Right.
So once you get your vitamins, make sure then you don't take it at that high multitude. Go back and get retested because that's what I did. I kept taking it and my body didn't need it anymore as much, not at that high dosage.
Yeah.
So sometimes I guess you can overuse vitamins
Oh,
as well.
yeah. You can get
Totally didn't know that.
vitamin, mineral tox. You can get toxicity from too much. Yeah.
Totally
Like,
didn't know that.
yeah. If you have too much. Well, here's another example. I was taking a nutrition class. That's when I learned about vitamin toxicity. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, okay, I'll just go buy some vitamins. I went to the store called GNC. I went and bought them. Well, now I'm taking this class at Worcester State University. It was a nutrition class, and I was in my adult years,
Mm-hmm.
probably my 40s. I went back to school. So I'm looking at it and I'm going, oh my God, this is way too much for me. I think it's meant for a male. I can't even remember, but I was meant to do I don't know, I was doing a paper or a research thing for my nutrition class. And so I looked at my vitamins. I was like, oh my God, that was way too much for me. Didn't even know it. How many people do that? We just think,
Wow.
okay, we got to take vitamins. And first of all, you're probably taking vitamins that you may not even be absorbing. So, and the reasons for that, either A, they're not good quality, or there's something going on in your body. You're not absorbing the nutrients. So you have to get these things checked out. First of all, you want pharmaceutical grade. That's helpful to get vitamins of good quality. But second of all, one of the things I learned helping in the Lyme disease community is a lot of them don't absorb vitamin B, oddly enough.
Hmm.
Well, that affects the nervous system. Autoimmune affects the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them have to have B shots so that
Mm-hmm.
can get into their bloodstream and into their body. So I would highly suggest if your primary is either against it or doesn't help you with it, find somebody that can test you to make sure you're absorbing your nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
Example is when people have like gastric bypass. I worked with a guy, again, it was just a coworker. But he had a lot of issues because he wasn't absorbing. He had his gastric bypass, but he was still having issues because he wasn't absorbing the nutrients. They weren't going into his body.
Mm.
Get sores, he'd get diabetic issues because he wasn't absorbing the nutrients. So I just
Wow.
really wanted to throw that out there because it's something people don't think about, that
No.
we're not only not getting the nutrients, we think about that, but absolutely absorbing them.
Absorbing them.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
the soils deplete. Well, most of us do. The soils depleted. The
Mm.
food isn't it what it used to be. It's a lot harder to get the right nutrients. Yes, a lot of us do know that,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of us don't think about, are we absorbing the nutrients? And like, say you do have an autoimmune issue. My friend taught me this one. I wasn't even realizing this. But say you decide to take a certain nutrient supplement, whether it's an herb, whether it's a vitamin. Oh, well, I heard that this is good for this and blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
Well, guess what? If you have an illness in your body, you've got to be really careful. That vitamin, that supplement may not work well with your white blood cells, your red blood, whatever it might be.
Wow.
You've got to check on that because it might not be good for you. So just wanted to
Wow.
put that out there. I didn't even realize that because there's
Wow.
a lot of good supplements out there, a lot of good herbs out there. They're good for this, they're good for that, whatever. But if you're going through something and maybe your white blood cell is high, your liver count is a certain count, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
those supplements may not work well in your body with what it's going through. You may take too much. You may not. It might cause some sort of reaction, whatever it might be. So these are things you
Really?
have to get you know, check on before you try to do things yourself. Just something to consider. If you are like, oh, I've got this issue and that issue, somebody said this is good. Another example is CMOS. CMOS is wonderful. But if you've got thyroid issues, it could affect your thyroid. So you've got to think of these things.
So we take CMOS here in the house, especially during the pandemic. We had just started that. I also magnesium and CO10 coenzyme 10
Yep.
vitamin and B2 is what my neurologist said I should take every morning along with the vitamin D weekly now because it used to be every other day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a regimen that a neurologist told me to help with the migraine. So
Right.
I try to tell people, give them a list of what I'm taking and what's worked. I think it revs up my energy level.
Yeah.
One of them does. I could tell. I'm like, okay, I feel better.
Yeah. Oh, this
Huh.
sauce is amazing. Good stuff.
Okay, good.
But I was actually helping after a client, and she was the one who kind of pointed that out. She's like, I can't do CMOS because it's affecting my thyroid. I said, oh, yeah, that's right. Because I think it's got iodine in it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's C, like C.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's deep. And I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't take the CMOS the days I took my vitamin regimen for my neurologist because I noticed that, of course, you get the other side effects like constipation and
Right.
sluggish or over. I didn't want to overdo it either because I'd already done that before.
Right.
So I would spread them out. So, I mean, that's some really good advice you're giving because
Thank you.
I definitely walked through some of those things that you're talking about. And it was by trial and error.
It is. I mean, I did it. I was trying you know what I mean? I never
Mm-hmm.
thought of those things. But my friend, because she was so close with all these doctors, she had Lyme disease. She was learning all this stuff from these doctors that she was getting tests from. And I'm like, that's huge. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, what is your source of strength?
Uh, prayer, God, my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I, that's it. I have big faith. God has shown me too many miracles and signs and wonders in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And even when you do feel like you at the road where you just be like, I'm weak today. I'm enough is enough. My source of strength is just knowing all that I've overcome already.
Yeah.
And knowing that God can use even this. So when I think like, God, why? I'm your servant. Like, why? It's like even this. So now when I go to the doctor and get a report, for all you people listening and go in there and get scared and drained, don't. I lay on the table and I ask God, even when this report comes back, what are you going to do with it? How you gonna use me with this report? Because we're past the phase of getting scared of the diagnoses. You've
Mm,
already brought us through too many things. So
right.
I had an issue with my breast and they had to cut a lump out. And I've survived cervical cancer already.
Mm,
So that's another story. I didn't know about. I didn't even know HPV and so forth and so on like these kids do now.
okay.
So
Yeah.
that was like 13 years ago. So in the process of all these tests and everything, something coming back positive, something come back negative, I just lay on the table and was like, nah, you brought me too far. You're gonna use this girl right here. You're gonna use me for something. And
Right.
so keep your positiveness all the way to the table, all the way through the test, all the way the drive there and back. Don't worry about the days you gotta wait for the
Yeah.
nope, because it doesn't add to you; it takes away when you
Hmm.
do that. So I've learned that, and I've been through some things. Like I'm not the person that's just saying it because it sounds good. I've been through these things, and people, they look at us and say, "Oh, it's easy for you to say that."
Well, you've been through it. Yeah.
I found out I had cervical cancer on lunch break.
Wait a minute. Explain this to me.
I get my pap smear every year, same time, same day as my breast exam. Never miss. And
Hmm.
because of that, it saved my life. I
Wow.
was 27, 28, or in my 20s, early 30s. I went and they got my results, and my same doctor I had since I had moved here. He said, Avis, I need you to come in. I'm going to send you to a specialist. Some cancer cells came back on your pap. And I'm like, oh, I'm just at work, whatever. I'm like, well, I can leave now. I go to the specialist and they start with the cryosurgery. They cut it out twice. It grew back. All of this is on lunch break. And then I'm going to these appointments and I'm scheduling them out. I'm scheduling with my job. And at the time, I didn't know how this could have happened. Cervical cancer, it wasn't on my brain. Like you hear about the other cancers a lot. In my 20s, 4 kids. I've had enough kids for somebody to have seen cancer. I'm thinking naively. And yeah, I went and they cut it out and they said if it grows back again, I would have to get a hysterectomy. So at that point, I wasn't really that concerned because I had as many children as I was going to have. And I was like,
Yeah.
no. So, I didn't even tell anybody during the time until it was over because it happened so quickly. To know that they freeze it and you go back a certain amount of days and it grew back and they were aggressive. And I
Mm,
didn't know that I was dealing with a regular cancer. And it started with HPV. And I think years later, now my daughter has all the luxuries that they talk about these things now so openly. I had never heard of it.
yeah. That
Never heard of it.
came like right after AIDS. They started talking about that.
Yep. So the last time they cut it out, I had another cryo and another little bit more extensive. They've been checking every year,
Hmm.
and your girl don't have no cancer cells appearing. Praise God. Literally didn't have any time to tell anybody. But that's how I am about me. I'm so proactive that I'll go and face whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
he didn't have to say, I didn't have to say, oh my God, let me call you back and talk to this person. No, you need me where? Where do you need me? Because this stops right now. Like we're going to get on this. The courtesy was you calling. The activation is me moving forward. I
Yeah.
had to do it. So I don't even tell people I'm a survivor because it happens so quickly that when I'm in like cancer groups supporting or speaking, I forget. I don't think I've ever told anybody I've survived that because I see my friend or my sister friend or people I'm praying for going through cancer a different kind of way. So I never thought mine's qualified. You know what I mean? Kind of, sort of. So this is the first that I'm even sharing it.
Well, you need to connect. I don't know if you've watched my last show, but you need to go back and watch it. My friend Ann shared her story of ovarian cancer. So you've got a similar
I will.
experience. Yeah, she had ovarian cancer and she did have surgery, but she also went to Hope for Cancer in Mexico to heal, and she goes back and forth there. I think it was every 6 months, but yeah, go back and watch that. For you guys watching, if you didn't see that last episode,
Wow.
my friend Ann is also a health coach, and oddly enough, her and I met in a business group that we were at, and she had to drop out of the business coaching because she found out she had cancer, and I was like, why? Because she ate healthy. She was a very healthy person,
Mm.
but yeah, she had ovarian cancer, and so you and her probably have a little bit in common, so you probably have to meet. But Thank you for sharing that. That's
Absolutely.
a lot for you to share, but I think
Mhm.
people need to hear it. They need to know these things and how they can, like what Ann's experiences were, what your experiences were. We like to, like I said earlier in the show, if you weren't on, I like to share, you like to share our experiences and give you other options because doctors
Mhm.
don't always give you all the options. So you need to kind of weigh all your options and what you want to do, what's going to work best for you. So
Mhm.
that's what this show's about. Hearing these people's stories, how they got through it, who helped them get through it. And I mean, first and foremost, most of the time it's God, but what else? What other resources and connections have we had to get us where we need to be to stay alive?
And there's way more knowledge out there now. There's
Yeah.
way more accessibility to the resources to get it.
Yes.
But if you didn't have those things like us, and it was all labor of ourselves, don't wait. Don't
Yeah.
hesitate to heal your, start healing within and be
Right.
proactive. That's the spunk I have, and I still have to this day. It's a lot. It's draining because
Mhm.
I'm always going to a doctor, but with all the things I've shared with you from my 20s to 30s to now, I'm here because of being proactive and following up and following through.
And so I said earlier that your migraines were probably a combination of a couple things because from listening to you, we're realizing it's possibility of being hereditary. It was passed down from some grandmother somewhere along the line. What was missing in the diet? There's something somewhere.
Yeah.
And we can also go into the bloodline and generational
Mm-hmm.
curses and all of that. Spirit of infirmity. There's also that.
Mm-hmm.
Something else to think about and
Mm-hmm.
pray
Yeah.
about. And then last but not least, in the natural, we've also come to the conclusion there could be some mold toxicity in her environment, in her body. Mold mimics a lot of different autoimmune illnesses like Lyme disease or lupus. You wind up having headaches. She had stroke like symptoms. So it mimics those types of illnesses. So if you've got fibromyalgia, you dealt with fibromyalgia, and you can talk about that a little bit in a minute. Um, if you've got those types of issues going on, what's in your environment? Do you work in a place that the ducts have never been cleaned?
Mm,
I did.
I did for sure.
Do you live in a home that's like, say, you're in Florida? It's always humid. It's always there's always mold and mildew in the home.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a moldy basement? Does it flood all the time? Ask yourself these things. Do you have mold in your home? If you have some issues, you might want to get your house tested for mold. Look up on YouTube if you want to know more about mold, Dr. Shoemaker. I forget how to spell his name. I think it's like it sounds, Shoemaker. But Google him. He's a guru of mold and mold toxicity. It's Dr. Shoemaker. I went to see him. He's amazing. Um,
Wow.
but it mimics Lyme disease. Sometimes Lyme and mold go hand in hand. Sometimes people have both. Mold toxicity can be really tough. I've known two people to have it that almost died. Their whole body just completely shut down. They had to keep moving. They moved into several different homes. And even now, I see one of my friends, also a health coach, dealt with mold toxicity and she was dying. She's way better now. She started her business up again. She's a massage therapist. And she had to shut that down when she got the mold. But she's doing better. But I also did just see she's moving again. Now I don't know if she's moving because there's mold in her home. She lives near the beach,
Mm,
or it's just a coincidence. I don't know. I'm not that close with her, but I did see that. So I don't know. But she had to move several times. She was buying like trailers and things just to get away from mold. They can't, if there's just a little bit there, they've got like that's it. I can't live there because all of a sudden their body reacts. It's so sensitive.
mm, mm,
So those are some options just to think about if you're dealing with autoimmune issues like fibromyalgia, MS, Lyme disease, lupus, all those types of things. You also want to ask yourself, could it be mold? So I want to ask you, Avis,
mm.
talk a little bit about the so-called diagnosis of fibromyalgia, because you guys, it really can't be tested. So I just want
Yeah.
that out there.
So, 2014, I had some very stressful family events happen, and I thought I was just having a stressful season cycle or whatever. And another part of my source has become meditation after prayer, and I zone. I never got that still, and I wanted to get still and just align, keep my alignment. So I do that a lot, and it's helped me.
Mm-hmm.
But so after the stressful event in 2014, I went to a graduation, and it must have been, early spring or whatever, at a college. And I was walking, and I've always been one to not wear sneakers. I would always wear a little heel. I was very athletic, and I used to model. I used to do all this stuff in heels, and they were comfortable. So I'm walking in a little kitty heel, and I fell down in front of everybody at the stadium. The most embarrassing thing. And I felt so embarrassed, but it really was a bad thing for me. Like, it was such humiliation. And I was like, I can't walk. But because I was born with a birth defect, I always get kind of alarmed when anything happens with my legs.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to the doctors, nothing, nothing, nothing. Oh, you might have it was just a regular primary doctor. It wasn't a specialist. So, I got all the generic answers. It started to keep happening in my shins. I would always complain like they felt like they were splintered. And so I would get out my bed, and literally my body was locked up. And I'm like, this is so weird for a healthy type, a majority healthy type individual.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would need help walking, and then I would fall down. So now I take one step at a time. You
Mm-hmm.
think I had a walker. At one point we were getting a cane. It was so bad. And then I would get this irritability under my skin. It would be inflamed. I would be itching. Like, cold showers is my best friend. Like, I'm restless at night, super fatigued, because it takes so long for me to unwind and my body to stop itching sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
so they were calling that a flare up. So during those midnight hours, I changed my schedule. That's why I work during the night, because I was already up. So when everybody, the house is settled, I don't want to bother my husband. He has to get up early. So I'm like, well, I'll just work at night,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll sleep while everybody's gone. So I won't burden anybody. Um, so one morning, 2, 3 in the morning, I'm looking at TV trying to doze off, and a rheumatologist commercial comes on, and I'm like, wow, that's the only doctor I've never been to. But they had a list of tests that they do, and it intrigued me. And my spirit was like, call. And I did. And when I got there, he's like, who referred you? Most people just don't come to rheumatologists. And I was like, nobody referred me. I didn't wait. My body is breaking down. I'm immobile most times. I'm having vision issues, memory issues, speech impediments. I'm scared to drive. I need to know what's going on. And you're my last resort. And it's a doctor here, super extremely nice doctor. He went and took a whole year to testing me for things to weave out. It's not lupus. We know that. It's not MS. It's not cancer. It's not this. It's not that. He's going off a checklist of what to weave off. And then once he got to the last resort of what it could potentially possibly be, because everything else had been eliminated, he was like, from what I'm hearing and from what I'm seeing, with you debilitating like the way you are, so it's collapsing. Everything in my body was collapsing quickly. He was like, fibromyalgia since 2015. So that's the trajectory of the course of my thinking has been, okay, fibromyalgia. But even with that, my husband, my children, like, no, I don't think it's fibromyalgia. You're like, what is this?
Well,
And I did.
fibromyalgia is a symptom of a bigger thing going on, and that's the question you have to ask. So, like I said, I think, and this is just my opinion, but from everything I know and my knowledge of what I've studied, I think it's a combination, something that was going along in your from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course,
Mm-hmm.
you on top of that may have some mold in your home and mold toxicity.
And I got tested for mold because of the irritation and the breakouts, right?
Yeah.
So I'm using gloves for everything outdoors, indoors. I'm just spending a lot of money on a lot of things that's superficial. Go to a dermatologist, super nice, an allergist.
Mm-hmm.
And she does all these tests every week. I'm getting a stick to, I'm getting medicine, an injection to help with allergies, right? But then she took the mold test. And even I was more allergic to the mold. Of course, it was more mold in my system versus my dogs, because I'm always laying with them. So you would think I may be getting irritated from that. She was like, there's a higher level of mold than it is with the dog. So that was the first indicator, but I'm thinking superficial on the skin until I talked to you.
Wow.
Until I talked to you. And that was a couple years ago because we were able to get the carpets, new carpets, brand new throughout the house as a result of the mold test. So talking to you and speaking to you, I've never even been told you can get a blood test to
Right.
see the toxicity of mold and whatever else. Never heard of it. So as a result of your blessing me and your obedience, I have an appointment coming up. And we have 4 mold kits downstairs.
Yay.
And as soon as I get off this interview, it's in this house for mold. I mean, it's obvious it's already here.
Yep. I mean, even the house I grew up in, that had mold in our basement. You know, we had the cellar flooded a few times. It had paneling, and I'm sure the mold was building up beyond that paneling. So my mom always had breathing problems. And granted, she was a smoker in her day, you know, all of that. But I think a lot of her breathing problems were probably the mold in that house.
Yeah, my daughter.
But yeah.
My daughter can't be on the second level.
Mm-hmm.
And she just moved out. She's 32, but she could never be on the second main level. She would always have to go into her quarters downstairs and just stay because she couldn't breathe. And now when she comes and visits, she can't stay. She doesn't stay longer than like 30, 45 minutes max. And that's with her with tissue in hand, patio door open, her breathing in from outside. And I used to just think not extra. I just used to be like, well, it's the dogs. Or are you that allergic to dogs? But we've been around dogs all our life. I didn't figure it out, but we've been in this house 11 years and we've had three, maybe 4 water issues. And I think there were pre-existing issues which prevented this house from selling. Yeah.
Wow. So you guys, whoever's listening, it's so important.
Yep.
Because mold will do a number on you. A number.
Yeah. If it's mold, it's very serious what it's been doing. It's very, very, very serious. It is very frightening.
And it's not really talked about, you know, not really. I mean, even the officers, for those of you who don't know, I worked in a prison for 22 years. And the officers would complain about the air quality. They're like, these ducts need to be cleaned. I've never had asthma until I started working here. What's going on? And do you know what they did? And I'm sorry, I don't care if this is worldwide, whatever. They put them out in the yard. Okay, you can't breathe? Well, go out in the yard. Instead of actually fixing the problem.
Yep.
One day, you know what they did? They came with a vacuum cleaner to clean the ducts. That's not gonna do anything.
That's what they did here.
Yeah. Like whole thing sucked out, please.
They did the ducts and it seemed like it made it worse because you stirred up everything.
Yeah.
And then we're blowing the heater or blowing the air conditioner and they keep telling us to change the filters. Of course we change the filters.
Right.
Ongoing, but it's barely anything on them. So just imagine where it's stuck at. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Here's another clue, especially in workplaces or conferences, like you go to a hotel. I always was a mess from either in a hotel, being at a conference, at work when the air conditioning was on, because that mold is stirring up. It's all that moisture. Not so bad when the heat's on. It's the air conditioning. That would
really
all filled up. I used to hate when they would, I would do everything, let's just open the windows, you know what I mean? Hated when they wanted to turn on the air because I'm like, oh my God, I can't breathe. There's a mold coming down. So that's something just want to make everybody aware of out there. Sometimes there's mold, even if you have those window air conditionings too. That would happen to me. The mold would build up in the window unit, the window air conditioners. The mold would build up in that thing, and then it starts blowing on me. And I'm like, I gotta shut up.
And it disguises itself as symptoms or like sinus infections.
Yeah.
Because I noticed my husband, he's up in age, he's a few years younger than me, but we're always talking about sinus infections. And I used to always go to the hospital for upper respiratory infections. Yeah. So they might come in the guise of, oh, it's pollen. Like we close the windows now because my husband's like, don't crack that window when it's cool out. I grew up country, so Midwest, so we love the fresh air. Yeah. But we assumed it was just pollen.
Nope. Mold. I used to
Yep.
do the same thing, but it was the
Yep.
mold.
Telling you.
So real quick, give, give everybody quick tips, and then we've got 5 minutes left. So then tell everybody how they can reach you.
Okay. Well, tip number one is pay attention to your body and stay on top of your appointments, your follow-ups, your tests, your blood work. And no matter how difficult it feels, make sure you press and get a support system. Reach
Mhm.
out to somebody that's willing and free-minded enough to go to just support, listen, help you along your way, because your journey may not be straightforward. It may take you through some peaks and valleys, but don't give up. Um, and that was part of my number two, find a trusted confidant,
Mm.
someone who can support you and pay attention with you, because sometimes well, not sometimes, normally now I need a lot of people, someone else to be my ears and my eyes to like hear the story that, there's so much that comes at you at once. It feels jumbled up. Just
Mhm.
have somebody you can trust that's equipped to be by your side and pray with you and go with you and support you. And move around. That's my last tip. Move around, meditate, dance, walk, and swim. Swimming was a big thing for me. It cooled my body down. It got me in a temperament where I was just balanced and even keeled. So just keep moving. Don't stop.
Yeah, I went swimming today. I love swimming. Swimming, it
Mm-hmm.
makes you feel so like energized. It
Mm-hmm.
really, I love swimming. Yeah,
Opens you up. It feels like, like
refreshing. Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
good thing.
Couple weeks, and I was like, oh, I just gotta get out there.
And aquatics is good for the fibro. When I did the conference, it's good for the aquatics exercise, is good for the resistance in the water when you have muscle aches and tension. So take the diagnoses off the table. Just know that it's naturally good, like to move around and
Yeah,
keep your body mobile. So that's what I would say.
yeah, yeah. I did water aerobics way back.
Mm-hmm,
There was
mm-hmm.
people there that had like arthritic type problems, and that was like so helpful for them. So,
Yes,
hmm
yes.
so tell everybody how they can reach you.
You can reach me on my website at www.avischerie.me. I'm on Instagram, Avis Cherie, Facebook, Avis Cherie, and yeah, I'm everywhere. You can email me at evolution@avischerie.me. I do a lot of different things. I'm into healing. I'm a servant first. Getting together some groups of coaching, wounds to wins, to get us out of stuck. It's more of a not a coaching, but more of a support through life. You might need that confidant. I'm an ethical person, so I know what safe places feel like, and it's necessary. So catch me doing all things Avis Cherie. You can catch me on YouTube. I have a wealth of knowledge and different playlists and things that I do. You can get a glimpse and see who I am and all the things that I do there as well.
Oh, I can't wait to check that out.
Avis Cherie TV on YouTube.
Oh, well, this has been great. Thank you so much. We've got 2 minutes left. I don't know if we have any questions. I'll let everybody put some questions up there. And once again, I'll just let you know who I am. If you're struggling with just overwhelm of not knowing what to eat because you are suffering from something like got a lot of joint pain or your stomach is bloated, I'm your girl. I had multiple food allergies and I went through that. Like, what the heck am I going to eat? So I can help you find foods that are anti-inflammatory, which will help reduce that bloating and reduce joint pain. So I can do customized recipes, or I have recipes on the website. If you go to enrichyourhealth.com, there's some free gifts there too. I've got a book called, an ebook called Reversing Illness, and a 6-day immunity meal plan guide. So feel free to get your free gifts there. They're on the store on my website. If you don't see them right away, go to the second store. I apologize. I have to update it.
I can't
The
wait.
first one store is blank by accident, so I don't want you to think it's not there. Just
Mhm.
go to the other one. But I don't see any questions. I want to thank Joy and Rashida for being on. I don't know if they're still here. Anybody have any quick questions before we go? Got about 1 minute left. But if you are suffering with something in your health and you just didn't, you don't want to put it here on whatever YouTube or Facebook or any platform, and Facebook message me, or Instagram message me, or you can text me and then we'll set something up. That's the easiest way to get me. You can get my phone number on the website if you're not comfortable here. I don't see any questions. So we will wrap it up. We do have some great shows coming up. We're on every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I am looking for more guests, starting to book in August. So we do it live. Maybe eventually I'll record, but right now I'm pretty much doing it live, which I enjoy doing it live. I like having it live, having my guests live. I just think it's more personable. That's just me. So if you want to be on the show, you're overcoming illness, you're a practitioner, caregiver, spouse, dealing with somebody who's ill, you're ill. I'm looking for something like that. Could even be a pastor or an apostle or any of that type of person, because you've dealt with people that are ill and still do. So I would love to hear your stories. People need to hear your stories. So we'd love to have you. So Avis, thank you again for being on today.
Thank you.
I hope people really get a lot out of it. I hope that it helps somebody today or more than one.
Me too.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we are ending, and we will see you next Sunday. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.